Need to stand for something, take a stand for something. Lend a hand for something, take my hand for something. Understand it's nothing. Gotta stand for something, all we fall for nothing. Time to stop the frontin'. Yeah, we stand for something, never fall for nothing. That's all we wantin'. Stop rock and roll, everybody lose control. Everything I did it since I'm 4 years old. The air, land, and the sea, they get into your soul. And I'm like a space rocket just waiting to explode. Homeless beings on this planet begging to get in cash. Now I'm seeing what they seeing, they know it never lasts. Getting high off the supply, they say they getting low. You ain't hearing what they saying, send them to the store. My brothers befriended them, cops they ain't standing them. Black folks prep for the police, but now they scared to come. Choke my man's dead in the street. Face on the pavement, killing, and they get away with it. Right now I feel they only see me one way. And I know you counting sins, feeling some type of way. But you cuss on me and then you hope that I stay. But I want...
All right, that worked. Welcome everybody to Ropeadope TV. On this 1 year after our first Ropeadope Festival in lockdown, that was Juneteenth last year. So we are a year past, and today we have a wonderful program set for you. I want to take care of some basic business at the top of the hour here, at the top of the show. I want to let everyone know that we'll be joined by a wonderful cast of characters from Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Clef Club. We're going to get to that in a moment. But what we're doing in this hour is auctioning off the very first test pressing from the album, The Philadelphia Experiment. There are 10 test pressings. This is the only one that'll be up now. And all of the proceeds from this auction are going to go to the Philadelphia Clef Club and the wonderful work that they do. So without further ado, let me jump into the room and we'll introduce our cast of characters. First, I want to say welcome and respect and thank you to Mr. Lovett Hines from the Philadelphia Clef Club, Artistic Director. How are you today?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm doing really well.
Thank you for being with us, and looking forward to hearing all about this. We are connected to you by Mr. Paul Giess from Philadelphia. And Paul has an album coming out later this summer on Ropeadope. We're going to play an exclusive track from that today. Paul, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I guess I'll just say Ropeadope was connected to the Clef Club before me. You just didn't know it.
We've had, this is true, but not, you know, there's a difference between acquaintances and friends. So I think I think that we had some business, some certain things in and out before, but now I think we're connected more deeply, and I look forward to the future. I want to say here that we were connected to you, Paul, by a gentleman in this room for whom I have the greatest respect, not just for his musical ability, production skills, but also for his fashion sense, Mr. Jamaaladeen Tacuma. Jamaaladeen, welcome.
Live it down.
You had to know I'd go there. You're my.
I can't live it down. I can't live it down.
Well, you know, at a time when a lot of people don't pay attention to it, you've inspired me. That's for sure. Yeah, I was a t-shirt and jeans guy for the longest time, but I'm starting to get it together.
That jacket right there is sure looking kind of spiffy.
Thank you. I was hoping for that approval, and I also want to welcome to the room wonderful. I mean, when I say wonderful, it's not even. You're all not ready for this gentleman. V Shayne Frederick appears on Paul's album, and you know, the best vocals evoke emotion, and he does it well. Shayne, welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me in the room, and thank you for those wonderful words of praise. I appreciate it. It's good to know that you're heard the way you want to be heard. Beautiful.
So let's kick it off. I want to start the history. The Philadelphia Clef Club is where we want to begin here. Excuse me. I know very little, but I will say founded in 1935 as part of a union community.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So would you like to start?
The union started in 1935. Okay. And that was the Black Musician Union 274. And it always was a national union that governed musicians around the country. And it got to the point where it got stagnant for Black musicians. So they decided to start their own union to kind of govern their jobs, their careers, a place where they could join and develop. And in New York, there was an organization way before 1935 called the Clef Club by James Europe. So that was an organization that was made for musicians to find a place where they can gather for Black musicians. And in 1966, when 274 had really lost their charter because the white the National Union really wasn't paying attention to what they were doing, so they decided to have, of course, like I said before, to have their own union, 274, and 274 was really prosperous. And at that point, when the National Union was having problems with Black unions all around the country, not just Philadelphia, they made a decree that all the Black musicians the Black unions had to be dissolved and lose their assets. The great thing about 274 is the idea of having an organization separate from the union, that assets where musicians could come and play and practice, was that element, the Clef Club. So when 274 was dissolved, we still had the Clef Club. And the Clef Club continued as a separate arm, a development arm, a gathering arm for musicians. In, like I said, in 1966, what happened was they revived the Clef Club, and the Clef Club started to have its own entity, its own building. It's separate from the union now. The union was on Broad and Christian on Broad Street. The Clef Club itself is in a separate building at 13th and Washington Avenue. And what happened, that became, again, that social arm. And the social arm is when musicians could come and have jam sessions. And later on, what they wanted to focus on was education. So the Clef Club at 13th and Washington Avenue started the education section. In 1995, we were approached by the William Penn Foundation because they were developing the Avenue of the Arts on Broad Street. And Broad and Fitzwater, we were given a chance to build a new building. So the brand new building went up in 1975. It was capital funding from Bernie Watson, and the William Penn Foundation helped that to develop. We brought in education program. And in that building, I was asked at that time, luckily, as the first director of education, if I moved into a new building, what would I like to have? So I said, in a new building, I would like to have a whole floor devoted to education. So the design of that building had a whole floor, the third floor for education, but also it had an auditorium and a bar because it was a club and a bar. And we also looked at the importance of having archives. So we had an archive space. We still have that. We have also a library space that's now a presenting room. And that was the beginning. And right now, the Clef Club of where it stands now. For almost 20 years, we operated at that location. And when I started at 13th and Washington Avenue, I started with 2 students because I Before that, I worked at Settlement Music Schools. So when I left Settlement Music School to start my own program, or a program that I wanted to head, I took 2 students with me, Daoud El-Bakari and Jaleel Shah, and it built from there. And we had people like Bilal Oliver that came into that program. We had Jonathan Blake was our first drummer, and it went on and went on and on. So now we serve almost 100 students. We serve 2,000 students in an outreach program, because we take outreach programs to different schools to present big band music. And right now, we just received a $600,000 grant for improvement, a capital campaign improvement, to do all the things that 20 years will do to a building: a new roof, air conditioning, and kind of set up the Clef Club for moving into the future. We're closed now because of the coronavirus mandate, but we'll be opening in the fall. We'll be doing some streaming, and we've been carrying on a virtual education program with the young help of people like Paul Giess, and a cadre of young artists that's really taken the Clef Club's education program and programming to a new level. We are starting an artist advisory board with people like Curtis Warner from Berkeley, Gerald Beasley, Kurt Warner is on it, Bobby Watson. So we want to make that national. And of course, we have a stellar alumni. And alumni is Emmanuel Wilkins. I can just go on with that.
Yeah, give us a few names so the audience can give me 5 alumni.
Give you 5.
Yeah, just so people can put it in context, so they know. I mean, you can hear about the nuts and bolts of this, but I want to talk about what it means to people on the other side. I mean, but can you name a few people who people would recognize?
People you recognize? Okay, well, we got Emmanuel Wilkins, Joey DeFrancesco, Christian McBride, I said Jonathan Blake, Bilal Oliver.
Wow.
Justin Faulkner.
Justin Faulkner, Nazir Ebo. And the funny thing about these young people is that I remember every story. I remember every story from each one of them. I remember Nazir Ebo. I think he came into our program. He was about 3 years old.
Good Lord.
And he refused to play in an ensemble. He just wouldn't play in an ensemble. He played in the drum ensemble. And what he did when he was playing the drum ensemble, he dropped a stick while he was playing snare. And while he dropped the stick, he went to pick the stick up, but with the left hand, and with the right hand, he kept the rhythm going. And when I saw that, I said, I got a drummer here. Yeah. So, and little stories like that. Emmanuel Wilkins would take a solo and he would only play one note, and I told him play that one note, and it was a high F. So he would take a solo and play that high F. So now he's doing something else. Of course, when we talked about Justin Faulkner, we took him on a master class, and Bradford Marcellus was at the master class. I think he was still in school. He was still going to GAMP school for performing arts. I think he was in 11th grade and then maybe the 12th. And when Bradford heard him, a year later, he was playing with Bradford. So those are kind of young people. Yasser Ali is another young man from Derby that came on the program. And what I'm so proud about these young people is that they had the freedom, because Emmanuel Wilkins found his own voice in a different way. Yasser Ali has a different mindset of what he wants to do with his music. Bilal Oliver did something else with his music. And the great thing that I like about all of this is that they receive inspiration, not just from the Clef Club. People like Jamaaladeen was there for Justin. And he talks, and they'll come back to rehearsal and talk about that all the time. You know, who they're playing with. Ray Wright, a great educator who just passed away, was instrumental in a lot of these young people. So Bootsy Barnes was there as a mentor. So this whole Philadelphia community played a part in not just what the Clef Club is doing, but as a part of, I guess, extended mentorship that we have in Philadelphia. And the Clef Club was just that home for those young people to say, oh, I can come and hang out. I can come and hear Jeff musicians play. So
it's a beautiful thing.
I think that's been the magic of what we do.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're describing is so important because it's really, I mean, you can talk about structural things in the education program, but really the heart of it, when I hear you speak, is community and support. And I want to pass the mic over to Paul Giess, because he's kind of, on the other side of that or in the middle of that. And so, Paul, can you describe how, what impact, and I want to hear Shayne's response as well. I mean, how important is this sense of community to your development and growth?
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I asked Mr. Hines to come on is because the community at the Clef Club, I don't know if I ever would have met Jamaaladeen Tacuma like I did if it wasn't for me being at the Clef Club and my association there. There's such a rich history of musicians there and teachers. And, a really amazing thing about just what those classrooms are like is, age is less of a factor than is musicianship. Mm-hmm. People at the Clef Club, they respect musicianship, and you have adults going in to learn. You're learning from kids. Some of the students there right now, I know I'm learning from, because they are just such consummate performers, and there are kids who are learning from adults, and it's really just in that way, just like a great community learning environment, and everyone's really there to be supportive of each other.
Yeah, I've learned just from the records that come our way, wherever there's a strong, whenever the music is strongest, there's always a community behind it. I'll reference Dallas and Booker T. Washington High School, even the Los Angeles community, Atlanta, Georgia, the places where people have support and network, that's where it thrives. And that's where all the young cats come from, like, kids who started when they were very young and really get up and have music be a supportive thing well past school situation. Shayne, I'd love to hear your impression of the importance of the Clef Club as well.
No, absolutely. I've definitely spent a lot of time over the course of a number of years in the Clef Club, the jam sessions, and so that's a space where you meet other musicians, and then they get a chance to meet and understand you, and you share a common vocabulary, the language. And you can be seen within community, because music is not occurring in a vacuum. So you can find out who's hot, who's popping, who has what kind of skill, what kind of style and flavor, and connect with those people that kind of speak to you. Most of all the musicians that I've met in jam session environments, such as the ones that have been hosted at the Clef Club. So I owe so much to those environments. In my catalog, all my stuff, my repertoire, everything comes out of that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Jamal, how long have you been involved with the Clef Club? Was it in your early years, or?
Well, no, not really in my early years, but there's the connection. Well, as you guys were mentioning, that community is the most important thing that I think that is really pushing everybody to come together to do what we do. Now, it's very interesting that I've observed a lot of things from the outside in, and the influence that and the inspiration that has come from Lovett Hines has been very exciting over the years, because I've actually seen Lovett early on with a band that he had called Heme. And that band was a local band here in Philadelphia. And there's so much history that goes on with that. And I've yet to have actually sit Lovett down and speak to him about that, all of that history. But I observed him and observed what they were doing. And in turn, I was influenced by that. And to see Lovett now in the position that he is, and to be able to reach back out to the community, that's sparking all of these beautiful and lovely things, is so warming to my heart to see that. So there's this indirect connection that I've had with them. And of course, you know, you spoke about all of the alumni that has come through the Clef Club. And the one experience that I had, you know, we spoke about was Justin. And I, it's funny, one day I was walking down, and this might have been the time, I think when Justin was 13, he was probably at the Clef Club at that particular time. And I remember walking down the street in West Philadelphia, and I just walked past his house, and I heard some drums in there. And I like just knocked on the door, and his mother came to the door. And you know, anybody that knows Carol Faulkner know that she doesn't take nothing. She doesn't take nothing from nobody, and you have to come correct with her. And now we're talking about her children, so you know it's a whole nother thing that's happening right then and there. So I knocked on the door. I said, "Excuse me, I heard some drums, and I was, you know, I'm just curious." And she says, "Well, that's my son Justin, and he's 13 years old." I was like,
Wow.
"Okay." I said, "Well, you know what?" I said, "Well, he's 13, but check this out. I'm doing I'm playing at this club called the Cafe Harlem, and you know, I'm there every, you know, and I would do this when I would come off a tour. I would just go there to play, and at 13 years old, I pulled Justin in, and every night, every Saturday night, his mother, Gerald and Carol, would bring Justin, and we would play a concert evening. We would have dinner, and we would play. 13 years old, we go to Justin at 20. So we have been actually we played in that scenario for about 4 years. We did that for like 4 years. So when Justin became like 19 or 20, I had, you know, been involved with Ornette Coleman, and I have been telling Ornette that I wanted to do a record, and I wanted to do a record with basically us using Ornette to be able to be a soloist. So I put the band together. So I called Justin to play on that Ornette Coleman record. Maybe one of the last records that he recorded was with me, and Justin was on that record. As a matter of fact, the record starts off with Justin and Ornette doing a solo together, and then we venture off into the actual tune. Wow. So it's that kind of thing. And the Clef Club has been extremely important in everybody's life, some form of fashion. And so, you know, I'm just glad to know that everybody's doing what they're doing and everything is moving forward. And, you know, there's some beautiful things that's happening.
Excellent. Yeah, community builds the music. I just want to pause for one quick second, let everybody know that we have an opening bid of $100 for this test pressing, so let's keep that going. If you're listening, this is a unique 1 of 10 item, so please support. Mr. Hines, I want to get to Paul's track, but first I want to say I have a note here to talk about both your summer camp program and then also a friend who passed. So I'll turn the mic over to you.
Well, the summer camp program is something that we started because the Clef Club didn't have a building for a while. The transition between the old building at 13th and Washington Avenue and the new building being built at Broad and Fitzwater. So we had to roam from different places because I wasn't going to stop the program. And I remember one of the members of the Clef Club was Rayburn Wright. And Rayburn Wright at the time worked for the recreation department. And he was working at Lee Cultural Center. And he said, well, Lovett, if you need a place, you know, come in, you can come to my center. And that was Lee Cultural Center. And we started in the fall with the fall program. And since Lee Cultural Center is a recreation department, he suggested that we start a summer camp. So to keep the kids involved. So we started our first summer camp at Lee Cultural Center, and that was over 20 years ago. And we have continued that. A lot of great young people came out of that. Wayne Smith Jr., remember him coming on the program, so it just goes on. Max, so I got Ari Holdnick was part of the program too. And a lot of those young people started there. So we decided that we wanted to keep the summer camp going, but then we had to move from Lee Cultural Center. So we left the Lee Cultural Center and we ended up at Ridgeway, which was the building that now is Kappa.
I'm having it. Looks like
Uh-oh, did we lose him?
yeah, I think we lost. I think we've got some internet issues happening here.
Okay.
We
Well,
will-
I know, Mr. Hines was talking about Rayburn Wright, and I know I get all sorts of stories from Mr. Hines. And, he just told me about all the people, whenever he'd get a new saxophone student, he'd send the brand new students over to Rayburn Wright. So, all the cast of saxophone players that came through the Clef Club, many of them started with Mr. Wright. And so folks like Jaleel Shaw,
Wow.
I'd be fairly certain to say Yasay Ali and Emmanuel Wilkins. And Rayburn Wright. Oh, we got Mr. Hines back.
Okay, I'm back. Okay.
I was mentioning some of the people that Rayburn taught, because you would always send you would send folks over to him for private lessons.
Yeah, and Ray Wright, when he came at the Clef Club, he was one of the things about Ray Wright. Matter of fact, he was 88 when he passed. He was always known as an educator. So if you were a reed person and you wanted to really create or get a good sound, everybody would say, go to Ray Wright. It was two teachers that was known at that time for saxophone. One was Ray Wright, and matter of fact, the other one was my teacher, Buddy Sabat, for a minute. But Ray Wright played flute, baritone, tenor, alto, but he was known for really being a consummate teacher, but he was also really known for creating everybody who wanted a great sound. And all those players that came from Ray Wright, from Jaleel Shaw, to Emmanuel Wilkins, Yasay Ali, all those young people who was in our program automatically went to Ray Wright. And later on, Ray Wright started the Lad Band at the Clef Club. And that was a band of adults who were not real musicians at one point, but was laymen who wanted to play. And he kept that for the last maybe 15 years. And we're talking about educators in the summer camp. One of the things that I think was so impactful when we did the summer camp through our virtual programming, to have musicians come back and serve as master clinicians and do master classes. And I remember one of the greatest, most impactful ones we have was with Jamaaladeen Tacuma. And he challenged the young people. So that became a major part of what we do now. We have master classes. This year with the summer camp, we're going to have at least 4 of them. Of course, we're going to have a hybrid program this year from 12th to, I think we started July the 12th. We're going to end on the 24th, I think. Is that right, Paul?
23rd.
23rd,
Yep.
and that's going to be an outside performance at PAFA, Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and it's going to be in their courtyard. And I think this is going to be really impactful, because the most important thing about that is, again, we're going to sprinkle the virtual program with performances. So we're finding places where we can take the kids out so they can perform. And we got some invitations for Dilworth Park. We're going to be playing in some other areas. We're also going to be playing outside. And then we reached out to the community again, which is something that's going to be, again, more impactful. The church at 16th and Fitzwater is going to be a place where we're going to take the kids out to play. Universal has a playground. We're going to take the kids out to play. So what has happened in this course of adversity is that we have found a new way to present our education program and our summer camp and reach out to the community. And it's just so, I guess, rewarding to have people like Paul, who have the vision to say, okay, Mr. Hines, we can't stop. We got to keep going. Let's try this. Let's try that. Sound trap. I don't know what sound trap was, but we used that, and the kids are now composing. So it's just real rewarding to keep the summer camp going.
It's beautiful. Well, I'd like to, checking everything here. I'd like to jump in here and take a little bit of a break and switch over and listen This album from Paul, produced by Jamaaladeen, has impacted me greatly. Music is an interesting thing, especially when it's your job, like my job, as a business thing. No, I don't mean as a player. You can listen all day long, and you can critique, or you can feel happy, or you can get a little inspiration, or you can talk about all the great people that are on the record, and this is amazing. But sometimes it just kind of hits you right here, and this is one of those records. It speaks to the time. I guess I'm a little more open to emotion than on the usual day before COVID hit, before I had the much greater chance of dying on any given moment. But I don't want to say it's just that. Maybe I was a little more open to it. But this is really a powerful album. It is not out for pre-order yet, I don't believe. Mr. Brown, we're early. This is an exclusive for this song, and I want you to hear this, and of course V Shayne Frederick on the vocals. So give me a second to switch things over. We'll see how this works. All right. I think we're back.
Well, we just heard a track, Go Now in Peace, from Paul's upcoming album titled Hymns Volume 1. The release date is August 27th, with the pre-order actually beginning July 23rd, if I'm not correct. If I'm correct, I think I'm correct. All right, awesome. You know, Paul, we had a great, and thanks for everyone who's just joining us. We had a great conversation in the front half about, you know, the Clef Club in Philadelphia, and, you know, the inspiration it brought you, the contribution, the bringing the community together, the education piece. And I know that's had a big influence on you in creating this album. I would love to hear a little bit about the track that we just heard, you know, and maybe some influences about the whole entire project in and of itself.
Sure. That track, Go Now in Peace, I was actually talking to my parents about it last night to make sure. I was like remembering some things. I was like, let me make sure I got my facts right. And that song, you know, I grew up in a Unitarian Universalist church, and there were part of my youth, they would play that song as the kids would go to Sunday school. So the kids would like be part of the church for the beginning of the service, and then, you know, they'd all like line out to go downstairs for Sunday school, and the congregation would sing that song. So that's some of the origins of that song for me. You know, influences of the album from a broader perspective, there's definitely, you know, I spent 2 years down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, studying at Louisiana State. So there's definitely, you know, a hand of like the influence from New Orleans. And, you know, some of that also ties it into some of the influences I got from teaching at the Clef Club and under Mr. Hines. You know, Mr. Hines loves bands like the Jazz Crusaders, and he was always like introducing me to new things, and I'm like, and you know, things that they necessarily wouldn't always like focus on in like your typical jazz school situation, you know. So hearing that and learning about so many, you know, Mr. Hines is just, as we just heard, he's a history book, and there's so much that I've learned from him. I've tried to pick up as much of those, you know, musical influences as I could. So I guess I hope a little bit of that stuff is in there too.
I love that, you know, and when people have a chance to wrap their ears around this album, they're going to find a lot of that, a lot of the history, but with your own twist, your own interpretation of how that history means to you. And it's really, really exciting to me to hear. And, you know, speaking of history, you know, Jamaaladeen is the producer on this album, and we heard earlier how the connection was formed at the Clef Club. I'm curious how that conversation went when you spoke with him about this project, and, you know, how did that go? How did you get him involved? Like, what was that all about?
How did I get him involved?
Well, actually, from my remembrance of our connection, see, Paul would come up to the red carpet room. He would come up to the red carpet room, and he would come there to don himself and, you know, and things, you know, and I would like, you know, like try to take him out of his comfort zone. Like, Paul, try that on, you know, let's see how you look at that, right? And so, you know, and I would also talk to him about other things. You know, I had heard him play before, and the talent that I knew that he had, I was just trying to push him towards just going as far as he could go with his talent, and thinking about things that, you know, he might not have been thinking about. You know, we talked about film scoring and things like that he's been actually doing, but I kind of felt as though that he could do that as well. He can be an individual artist. He could, because he's very intelligent. So it was almost like we connected on that tip. So he would, on that side, so we would come and talk. And so for me, when he started explaining to me about the recording, I kind of jumped in, but at the same time, I was extremely moved from the spirituality and the concept of the record. He was doing it at a certain time when COVID was happening, and I think also the way that the process of how we approached the record during that COVID period because we had to approach it in a different kind of a way. I mean, initially, the recording was done in the studio with a live scenario, and but you know, the post production, there was a lot of things that was going back and forth, and I was trying to really make sure that, you know, I was hearing things properly. Fortunately, I knew the engineer, Tom Spiker. We worked together. He's worked on projects with me before, and so I was familiar with him. And so it was something that I just felt as though that was just really spiritually on point. And so, but it was really one of also, we're talking about Shayne. When Shayne came to the studio, I was wanting to make him feel really comfortable, and Paul was like, no, everything is okay with me. And I was just like, because I had been already used to doing sessions where we would block out a certain amount of time for the actual session, for the actual recording, and then I would also block out a certain amount of time for the vocals, you know. And Shayne automatically made me feel comfortable in his professionalism, in that he reminded me of the classic singer who knows exactly what to do when he comes into the studio. And as a producer, as sort of like a guy who's just standing on the side, they just did their thing. They just absolutely did their thing, which was absolutely phenomenal. And they ran those tunes down. And the only thing I did was just make sure that everything was just running, guiding, you know, kind of making sure everything that was running the way that it should. But they came and they all came and took care of business the way that a recording session is supposed to run.
Amazing.
That's pretty powerful. And Shayne, I would love to have you jump in here. You know, the vocals on that specific track and just on the album, I can feel it in my being, man. The vocals are just very, very predominant. And for you on that specific track, you know, what was coming to you regarding the lyrics and how you felt, and what did you feel that you brought to the contribution of that song?
I mean, that song, and I think every other on the project, I gotta know the story and like really live in the intention of it's a lyric. You know, I'm a singer. You know, I'm a vocalist who likes lyrics, who likes telling stories. So, and that was a song that we'd worked on before. We had done it in live settings. So it was like half of the songs I did, we had done live and live performance before. So I was very comfortable with them. Kind of knew the dramatic arc the song was going to take. Some of them were like super new. And so it took a while for me to get adjusted so I can get my teeth in the song the way I like to get because I like to get my teeth, you know, I like to bite the song the right way. That was an easy breezy song for me. It's a beautiful lyric. And Paul said it in an interesting harmonic context. So I enjoyed the challenge of it. But I mean, you know, challenge is, you know, meant to be handled. So we had a good time. It was a great day in the studio.
Beautiful, beautiful.
You're muted, Ludus.
Am I? And I'm back. All right. That's beautiful. I want to just interrupt here to let everybody know what to expect. We're chatting right now with folks from Philadelphia Clef Club, Paul Giess, Shayne Frederick, Jamaaladeen Tacuma, and we are auctioning off a test pressing for the Philadelphia Experiment, the very first one, which will have an NFT associated with it and will permanently be proven to be the first one. So please bid on that online to raise some money, much needed money for the Clef Club. Coming up, we're going to have some interesting things at the top of the hour. Analog Players Society, Ben Rubin, and Eamon Drum, and some up-and-comers, some lesser-known players on this album. Donnie McCaslin, Orrin Evans, Desron Douglas, and Eric McPherson, and of course Masta Ace will be joining us, and we'll be talking about that. We have a treat coming up in a moment, another Philadelphia connection here, a new track from Jim Coast and G. Calvin Weston. So that'll be nice. And then later we will be airing new music from Weedy Brema on Christian Scott Atundiajua's Stretch Music label. Also, it is Bandcamp Day. And for those of you who are out there who want to purchase music, browse on Bandcamp today, because all of their revenue share is going to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And it's big. I mean, lots of small contributions and small purchases add up to numbers in the hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of dollars from that Bandcamp platform. And that is what we titled this Juneteenth. We did not expect that it would be declared a national holiday. We have positive emotions on that, and we have a healthy dose of skepticism as well. But what you're seeing here is the real things that happen when people join together in community, and the real struggles and challenges, and the real building of beauty, which is something that will ultimately sustain us. So that's my 2 cents. I'd like to drop in on this track here from Jim Coast and G. Calvin Weston.
gents, we are back.
Yeah, we are.
All
back.
right, we are back here. Sorry, a little feedback here. We're back here in the room. If you're just tuning in, I'm just super excited to be in the mix with some phenomenal human beings, first and foremost, some extremely talented musicians, and just to be a fly on the wall to hear the history and the evolution of where things are going. Music in Philadelphia with the community, and just bringing education to the front, and just bringing all these beautiful things together with Paul's album coming up. Paul, maybe you can help me, round this hour out here, and just give me some closing remarks on what you would like people to hear, when it comes to this album. What kind of impressions do you want them to have when hearing these tracks and in this album coming up?
Yeah, so this album, which the pre-sale starts July 23rd, I was really looking for a way that I could express my values through music and hopefully offer, the audience something positive to take with them to help, get through, every day like we all got to get through every day. And, so I had to, Shayne's a poet, but I tend to turn to other sources when I need words to help tell a story, right? So I turn to the hymnal of the Unitarian Universalist Church that I grew up in, and just found some things that I really connected with, that I thought that other folks would connect with. And speaking of like making music and things that are like speaking to my values, I'm gonna pitch the Clef Club again. Which I know we have the test pressing is up for auction, and the sale for the test pressing is going to the Clef Club. But there's also, you can go straight to the Clef Club website and donate if you feel so inclined.
Mm-hmm.
If the price of that vinyl is out of like your range, you want to give $10, $5. The Clef Club is always looking to support its young people. And and that's it there. I know, Jamal was telling me a story yesterday about the importance of community arts organizations and an experience that he had when he was a young person. Do you want to share that, Jamal?
Well, quickly. I mean, I was a part of an organization, as a student, Model Cities, which Lovett is familiar with as well. And, my mother used to send me down south to North Carolina every summer to escape the gang warfare that was happening. But music was the thing that really kept me in the loop of positiveness. And, I see that same thing happening. Against all these odds that we're dealing with, still, it's a positive thing that people are coming together to do things. And I'd just like to also make a mention about Ropeadope. Ropeadope being the label that is a very conscious label. Mm-hmm. We're talking about business, but that's one side of it. But Ropeadope is also a label that is very concerned about consciously what's going on in our surrounding area as well as the world, and culturally what's going on in our immediate area and as far as the world. Because everything we do here really extends out to the world. We are actually ambassadors to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do what we do, it goes out to the world. So I like to also thank Ropeadope for coming in on this particular project, as you are, I would say the leaders in all aspects of this new idea and concept of the recording industry.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ropeadope.
I want to just jump in and thank Mr. Lovett Hines for taking the time to come on and talk about what you do. I know most of your time and energy you've got to balance it between, reaching out to people, but also focusing on keeping that community together and moving that community forward. So much thanks to you, sir.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your support too.
And thanks to Paul
Right.
and V Shayne Frederick. Thank you for that power. And I'm so happy that you decided against becoming a disc jockey with that voice for the vocals. You can do both, right?
Don't be a disc jockey.
All right, we're gonna move on to our next segment. Everyone is welcome to stay. We always love to hang We're going to be speaking with Ben Rubin, Eamon Drum, Masta Ace, and we're going to talk about Analog Players Society and their powerful, powerful blend of, I'm not even going to say the genre names. I'm just going to say their powerful mix. We're going to leave it at that, okay? But I'm going to jump the gun here while we're all on the line, and because of time, Christian Scott Atunde Ajoa is a person that speaks all of this, and he's been.
I want to say goodbye for the moment.
All right, see you, Jamal.
Thank you, Jamal.
Love you all. Love you guys. Each and every one of you. Each and every one of you. Wow.
Okay. All right, Jamal.
Thank you, Jamal.
All right now.
Yeah.
So Christian Scott Atunde Ajoa has been a great teacher to me. I was already ready to listen, and I had already listened to many artists, musicians, forward thinkers, ambassadors, as you just said. But he's taken it even further, and he's on a mission to build common structure, common ground musically across. It's not about genre breaking; it's about almost genre melding, and that as an example of how we can all find differences, but also respect our commonality and respect our history while moving things forward. So his Stretch Music label is gearing up for some incredible things, and the first track is out today. This is from Weedy Brema, who a leading voice on djembe, and this will be the first from his album, and I'm gonna play it now as we get ready for hour 2. So let's jump over there.
Living in the land of liberty, country of confusion, state of insanity, my city of. Living in the land of liberty, country of confusion, state of insanity, my city of. Living in the land of liberty, country of confusion, state of insanity, a city of brotherly love. Merely the buildings in Philly kill me, historically conceal me, displace me, brick by brick like big city dreams in the projects. Waiting on progress, but they tack it on the Ritz. And the only one I tips is the music man, cause he performs magic, pulling melodies out of his hat. You see these token holding final destinations, saying y'all made it to suburban train stations, while we're left here giving concrete accommodations, losing our green spaces. And I seek shade in a park in the name of love, but they hating on skaters. Somebody call 911, cause a lot have none. And I'm a taxpayer being paid back for homeless in a lump sum, and get engulfed by the flames. The fires that rise the sky turn black and blue. The eye of the violence that cries out for help, but being a man passerby means more than just a smile every time the citizens.
All right, we are back. It was a wonderful time with folks from the Philadelphia Clef Club. Support them if you can. And we heard just now the opening track from Weedy Brema's new album. That was Ships Come In, a lullaby. And as you can tell, it's quite an impressive array of style. And looking forward to that album. So with that, we're going to jump into our second hour here. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to my co-host, who is finally here in the room. So this is a big day here at Ropeadope. Mr. Fabian Brown.
I appreciate that, Louis. It is a big day. We have, some great individuals having great conversations. And I got to say, I'm really nervous about this next segment, not for any reason other than, when you're surrounded with some great musicians and people who've stood the test of time, my mind just gets flooded with all the things that I want to ask you cats, but I know we have like this much time to do it. And I guess it kind of starts back in August of 2020, when the project Tilted came our way. A live acoustic jazz session, improvised all the way, no cuts, no overdubs, 3 hours in the lab, just musicians doing their thing. And the idea that Eamon and Ben had brought to the table was, go in there, cut some hip hop instrumental records, but also have this soundtrack for this non-existent film, which birthed the title of the jazz album Tilted, which came out on Ropeadope in 2020. And, as Louis mentioned earlier, Donnie McCaslin, Orrin Evans, Eric McPherson, Desrin Douglas, all putting their vibe on it. And, I think Ben kind of, felt like it was a time to put some vocals on it. So he reached out to, Juice Crew member Masta Ace. And I think the timing was just perfect for everybody. And, Ben, I just want to kind of bring it into you and maybe paint a picture on, the whole concept of the project. I know you guys had this idea in your head, and to see it coming to fruition is, I gotta say, man, it's freaking amazing. And I'd just love to hear, your thoughts around it.
Sure. Analog Player Society, first of all, is Eamon Drum's collective that he founded, I don't know, like 10 years ago. And it's a rotating cast of characters, and I'm the latest character in the cast, I guess. Eamon and I met 5-6 years ago when he came in and helped me build out the House of Cha-Cha, my mix room in Brooklyn. And he was building his own studio, The Bridge, which he's sitting in the live room of as we speak. And he's like, I'm going to make this place a new studio. And he's showing me this gray concrete, empty box of a room. I'm like, okay, dude, sure. And, and 3 years later, he has the biggest, most beautiful studio in Brooklyn. And the whole time, and he's crazy busy. And the whole time we've been like, let's do some music, you know. And at some point we got to talking about De La Soul's most recent record. And the way they made it was they hired a band, stuck them in the studio for 3 weeks, I think, and just had them play, recorded it all. And then instead of digging in the crates, old school, you know, with vinyl, they just dug into, I guess, their Pro Tools sessions. And hopefully Pro Tools didn't crash a million times while they're doing it. And they made a great record. So I'm like, let's use that concept and try some Analog Players Society style. So a couple years ago now, 2019, made some phone calls and brought in Donnie and Oren and Desron and Eric, who were never an official band, but they'd all played together in all kinds of different configurations together. So they were all very familiar with each other. And basically I said, can you play a couple of standards, the two standards that ended up on Tilted, One Note Samba, the Joe Beam tune, and Epistrophe, Thelonious Monk tune. And I just asked them to play those tunes a few times. I said, Eric, keep the drumming on the boom backside. And 3 hours later, we're like into our third record of material from one recording session.
Amy, you gotta jump in on that, because I know you got something. I know you got something to add.
Yeah, you know, it was a fantastic experience. I mean, so I come from the Analog Player Society, was birthed from me being a tracking engineer, and just coming across the illest cats in the city, drums, horns, MCs, everything. So it's basically a very simple way of me cherry picking the best, the people that I want to work with and that have a vibe, and hopefully they come in and do, you know, a horn line here or a session here. And the whole sort of MO behind this whole thing, good vibes only. We wanted a group of people that, like Ben said, haven't necessarily worked together, but we knew it would be a great hang. We knew it would feel good, and they're all incredible musicians. And that is the vibe of the Analog Player Society. It's not about me. It's not about Ben. It's not about any of us. It's basically real people making real music, and without any pretense, just trying to make things hit. It's real simple. Yeah, I mean, that's all it is for us.
No, I love that. And you know, we have Ace in the room, and listen, I know your influence goes far and wide. The amount of people that, you know, looked up to you as they're coming through has been amazing, and you've done your thing. And I want to know what it was like when you received that phone call from Ben, you know, to get involved in this project. You know, I can imagine you were working on your own things as well too. You know, what inspired you to you know, get that phone call and say, yeah, I want to do this?
Well, when Ben reached out, he didn't give me a real detailed description at first of what was going on. He just explained he wanted a song, and you know, he sent a few beats, or a few pieces of music, I'll say, and I'm listening to them all, and they all kind of sound like this really jazzy music, and so then I went back and it's like, yo, explain what this is, like, exactly, because I know this isn't traditional. This isn't a traditional, you know, rap feature type thing, and so that's when he explained, you know, the Analog Players Society, what it was about, how it came together. And then when I listened to the music the second time, it made more sense. Then I understood where it was kind of coming from. And he basically gave me, you know, freedom to pick whichever beat I wanted to vibe to. There were two or three that I was looking at, considering, but I always go on vibe. I always go on kind of which beat immediately starts making me think of lyrics. And so this particular one, I think it was called Starry Nights originally, was the one I was between two, but this was the one that stood out to me, and I started to really come up with some lines for that beat. So I told him I'm going to go with this one.
I love that. And before we listen to the track, you know, Ben, I guess I'll bring it back to you, man, or either of you cats. So, you know, Ace gets the call. He's down. You know, he starts, you know, going through his process of creating these lyrics, which I can't wait for people to hear because this is out today. I guess what I'm trying to get at here, when you got the lyrics, when everything was added together, what was your immediate reaction? Was it like, okay, this is it? You know, tell me a little bit about how you felt when everything finally came together, when your vision of what you were going for, it was all right there. Because if I'm not mistaken, this is the first attempt at putting the lyrics with the track. So how you know, explain that to me. How was that process? How was that vision coming to reality for you?
Well, there's actually a little bit more to that story because at first I sent the track to Ace, and I didn't, like he said, I didn't really say much of anything because that's more or less what I said to the band. And I was just like, let me try this. Let me see, you know, it worked with the band. I want to see what Ace just comes up with off the bat. And what he sent me was a great relationship song, but it really wasn't what I was looking for. And obviously we hadn't talked about it. So I called him up and we had another conversation, and I didn't say much either, right, Ace? I said I was looking for something that was anti-racist and that I could play for my kids. That was pretty much all I said, right?
You actually referenced a song off my album with Marco Polo,
right,
called American Me,
right?
And you were like something kind of in that vibe, and I was like, oh, okay, like that made it more clear what you were looking for. And you said, but you know, you wanted to be able to play it for your kids. So I understood that, you know, this wasn't going to be, you know, a lot of profanity, but it was going potentially could be some lessons that could be learned in there. So I just tried to make it thought provoking and stay in line with kind of that feeling. And I used American Me as the sort of the guide. But yeah, the little bit that you told me was enough for me to, you know, reimagine the lyrics.
Well, you came right back to me with the first two verses, and, you know, I was pretty blown away. You know, I really couldn't believe how good it was. And then we talked about it some more, and I kind of felt like there needed to be like a little like closing, I guess, half verse or something, which you came back with, and, you know, that really tied the whole track together in a great way.
I want to jump in and just say, you know, the greatest songs are vague, in my opinion. Sometimes they can be explicit but also vague, but they tie into something that everybody can perceive. And the minute I heard this track, I Want to Go Home, and then the lyric, Land of the Free and Home of the Slave, I mean, these are things I understand, and these are also things I feel. So I understand them here, but I also feel it here. And I just want to ask Ace, like, you know, did it flow like that? Was it hard to get there? Because you hit a feeling that's just powerful.
It wasn't hard at all. Once Ben gave me those notes on kind of what he was looking for with the song, I wrote the song on the Garden State Parkway for the most part. I was driving up to a friend of mine's house to do workouts during the week, and I would write on my way there, and I would write on my way back home, and I got all the verses done during those drives to go work out.
Wow. So what, you just record, like you put the recorder on the phone and just go with it?
No. I just I put my phone on a memo, and then if I come up with a line, you know, I'll just do the voice dictation thing, and I'll say the line, it'll write it for me, and then I just go right back to the beat.
Wow. There have been so many times when jazz and hip hop, they kind of have this on again, off again relationship, you know, and there've been so many times when it kind of when you know it isn't the right fit, and then there are times when you know it's exactly the right fit, and this is going to last. I think this is one of those times. Shall we jump in and play
Hope
this
so.
for the people? We ready for that?
Yeah, sounds great, Louis.
It's getting late, man, I wanna go home. Ain't no time for debate, man, I wanna go home. My mind's in a state, man, I wanna go home. I'm feeling closed in, and I wanna go roam. Through the cotton fields, yeah, and tobacco plants. Yeah. Got a fire burning in me like a jack-o'-lantern. And look over your shoulders, honey. My group was looking at you like you owe them money. Reparations, conversations. Damn, 40 acres takes a lot of patience. Land of the free, home of the brave. Blood of the child, soul of the slave. Strange fruit, hanging from a poplar. Screams so loud, it's like he's singing in the opera. He wasn't guilty of the crime when they locked him up. Damn shame, he could have been a doctor, bruh. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, but the fact remains. You'll always be a threat when you're black with brains. They'd rather see it on the pavement. This is mental enslavement. Listen to me. It's getting late, man, I wanna go home. Ain't no time for debate, man, I wanna go home. My mind's in the state, man, I wanna go home. I'm feeling closed in, and I wanna go roam. Through the Capitol, with a bunch of guys. Long guns on our shoulders and a bunch of knives. If the Capitol Police come to tame the black beast, how much you wanna bet we lose a bunch of lives? Is this democracy or hypocrisy? It ain't justice for all as far as I can see. It's justice for some. A proud boy clutching his gun is less threatening than the black man in touch with his son. It's sad. Cause they look at me and they see a threat. And it just rolls like the mold on a chia pet. And it's all by design, do you see it yet? I could fight for this land, I could be a vet. It wouldn't matter one bit in the scheme of things. My equality was drowned in the sea of dreams. Land of the free, home of the slave. Screams of a child, blood on the grave. Feel safe and sound. Shouldn't feel like the world's trying to take you down. When the kid screams out, why I gotta be in the hood? Like a tree in the woods, does it make a sound? It's the place where justice lives. For every man, every woman, what they must have did was take the welcome mat and put a torch to it. Like a house without a porch to it, I can't go home.
Wow. First of all, to everyone in the room, thank you for the beautiful music, and to Ace, thank you for the powerful words. I recently watched the Tulsa documentary, and I've always Fabian will tell you, and most people that know me will tell you that I always have an idea. I always have a plan for action. I always have a response. I always know, okay, this is what's happening. This is what we should do. You know, it may not always be the right thing, but at least I'm going to try something. All right. I watched that movie. I listened to this track, and I've got to tell you, I don't know what to do. You know, after watching Tulsa, and these are things I knew. You know, it's not like it was something that just hit me like it is for so many people, and I'm happy that it is. But I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do. I sense the reality. I see the reality, but I don't have a path forward. And I have the same response to the declaration yesterday. You know, Juneteenth is now a national holiday. And I saw someone post on Twitter, okay, so now all the white people get to take a day off? Like, what's going on with that, you know? And I wonder, you know, I think it's extremely important to testify, to you know, as Ace has done so perfectly on this. But I wonder if you guys would like to talk about, you know, what's, how do you get home? How do we do that as a people? Does anyone want to entertain this discussion?
Well, I'll start it off.
Please.
And say that when I was writing those words, I want to go home, I wasn't fully clear on what I was trying to say, because part of me was trying to convey the thought or the idea that maybe I need to be living in Africa. Mm-hmm. I at least wanted to provoke that thought in some listeners. And at the same time, I wanted other people to hear it and say, wow, so he's here, he's in America, he's home, but he feels like he's not someplace else. Like, yeah. He feels like this isn't a safe place for him. And sometimes I like to say things that have sort of 2 or 3 ways to interpret it, because I like to leave certain things up to the listener. So I purposely will put lines and words together that can mean different things for different people. So that's kind of what I was going after. You know, there was definitely a time in the last 4 years where I was like on the internet, like searching African countries to find out like what's an ideal place to live with an economy and with a, you know, low cost of living. And I was literally like doing that stuff. And this is where I was born, obviously, and raised, and I don't feel at home here. I don't feel at home here, like many people that look like me don't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ben or Eamon,
anybody else?
Do you want to comment?
Yeah. This song has really started to make me think deeply about the word home and what that means, and especially how Black people interact with that word. And I'm going back and checking out other music I've worked on lately, like Queen Esther's song, All That We Are, and that song, and it kind of blows my mind how like kind of pervasive this theme is. But the first line of that song is, "Here we are looking for home." Mm-hmm. And like, you know, this is obviously a big theme, and I would like to think that this song is making people think and start thinking about these things. And as an anti-racist white ally, like, I feel like that's where I can do the most good, is the only way out of this is to get people to listen and learn and understand and be able to see other people's perspectives. And another thing that brought me from this song brought me to that is that our song was used on this podcast called Reparations, The Big Payback, hosted by Erica Alexander. And that's like a 12-part series about reparations. And it's really worth everyone's time to listen to, because there's just no way I can put myself in other people's shoes, but like learning, you can start to understand how how racism and structural racism affects everybody, and obviously especially affects Black people, but it really affects everybody. And until we all get to the point where we're understanding that, like, we can't move forward. And, you know, I would like to think this song is a little bit of contribution from all of us pushing it in that direction. And that's why I love Ace's lyrics and the fact that they can be interpreted in more than one way, and hopefully always will be. I mean, to me, the best songs are the ones that you are never sure exactly what they're about, but you can't stop trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that way you kind of own the song, because it means something to you, and yet you're really not sure.
Exactly.
In the process of the education, something has come to me lately. Actually, let me take a quick second and welcome Anu's son to the room. So, Anu, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Hey, Anu, how are you, man?
Blessed. Love the song, guys. It's a hot song. I really dig it.
Nice, nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that in reflecting on all this, and what hits me about the song is like this general vibe of, you know, I'm having trouble just coping, right? I don't feel comfortable here, and this is about everyday life and about coping. And I think there are two parts to the brain. There's the part that helps you cope, and then there's the part that helps you learn. And I think nationally we're at this point where people are saying, so many people, I mean, I'm not, but are saying, well, no, I can't let go of this coping mechanism. I just can't. If I let go of this structure that I have, then I too will be lost and won't be able to go home, you know? And I think the education, Ben, you're right. I mean, it leads people to take that first step. And, you know, my message to people is we're going to be fine if we address this. We're going to be fine if we learn this. Like, I know there's that fear out there, but you can actually learn about these issues, and you can learn about the struggles of others, and you can learn, we may not have an answer about how we're going to get there. We certainly don't, but you can do that and still maintain your coping mechanism. You know, you don't have to hold on to, this is what I believe America is. You can let it go a little bit, you know, and start to learn. That's just a message I want to put out on the air. Anu, I'm not sure how much of that process or part of that you heard, but if you'd like to chime in, I'd love to hear your informed wisdom.
I heard the majority of it, and you know, I think everybody is saying, you know, valid points about what home means. And it's like, it's funny, it does ring different for everybody who listens, because, you know, I look at the African American as like, you know, we are a hybrid race, you know what I mean? Because, you know, while we were oppressed here in America and brought here against our will, and you know, continued to be underserved and, you know, treated less than equal, we also have issues with Africans, you know what I mean? Africans don't necessarily embrace us with the wide open arms that one would perceive that we're embraced there. And not to mention, they also had a role in the slave trade too. So there's a relationship that needs to be mended on that side as well. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So for me, home means literally my four walls that I control when I come home at the end of the day, after I go into the world, which is the war field that is America right now. Am I going to make it home? Am I going to get stopped by the police while I'm finding a parking space? You know what I mean? Or I'm trying to get a sandwich or earn the money to pay rent and take care of my daughter. You know what I mean? So it's a war out there. So when I get home in this comfort and I'm with my tribe, that I've raised and I've cultivated, and the people who are equal with and do treat me special and do value me, you know, that's home. And that's home is where the heart is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to jump in right on that. You know, for me, conversations and communication like this is what's going to keep things moving forward in the right direction, and healthy conversations. You know, messages like from Ace and from Anu, you know, through music. I mean, I know you guys know this on the line, but through music, you know, it has the power to really bring people together, and the word love comes to mind, right? But at the same time, there is a lot that has to be healed, and that's only going to come through healthy conversation and through dialogue, you know, and through more listening than speaking. So I'm just, I mean, I'm grateful for cats like you guys in the room who can put your music capabilities together and put a powerful message like you've always been doing, guys. You've always been doing this, but this track and this type of work is more important now in our lifetime. You know, like I got kids too, you know, and raising kids in this type of community, you know, and I'm mixed, right? You know, it's funny because sometimes, you know, in the Black community, I'm not as Black, or in the Hispanic community, I'm not as Hispanic, right? So I got my own things going on over here. But raising kids in this type of environment, it's important to communicate with them and let them know that, listen, it's not going to be easy, but at the same time, it's our responsibility to continue this dialogue, because we shouldn't make it easy, right? It's going to be tough to get to where we want to go. So that's my 2 cents. That's my thoughts about the whole thing.
I want to add, you also have Native American young men to look after as well.
That's
so
right.
You really are mixing it up. I want to play this thing. Abiodun Oyewole put together something for us. He was unable to attend in person today because a better gig came along, and you know you got to take it, right? So I was not mad at that. But I want to play this piece that he put together. He just had somebody come over and record this on the iPad, and it was about Juneteenth. So it brings some positive energy into the mix while acknowledging truth. So let me jump over there.
My name is Abiodun Oyewole, and I'm one of the founding members of the Last Poets. And I'm very happy to know that Juneteenth has been taken very seriously by the United States government, because that's recognition of an experience that many Black people are suffering with to this very day. To be put into a situation where you're in bondage, you're a slave, you have no recognition of who you are, and to continue that lifestyle for over 400 years, and to never be given any kind of recognition for the work that was done or for your liberation as far as that's concerned, is just, it's unbelievable. But for this, at this time, in 2021, it appears that something is happening. There's a bill that's going to be passed to turn Juneteenth into a national holiday. And I'm very happy to hear that, because I think that it's something that needs to be recognized. There would not be an America if it were not for the African people who built this land. Juneteenth. I didn't know I was free, so I was still picking that cotton. I heard a lot of us knew, but it seems we were forgotten. Then I saw a brother riding a horse. He rode by the plantation, looked at us with remorse. He asked if we were getting paid because slavery was over. We looked at each other and amazed when he said, "Nobody told you? You see me on my horse? I ain't no runaway. We've been free for 2 years now, and that's the way it's gonna stay." it was hard to believe that slavery had come to an end. But if this was true, then I knew a new life would begin. No more picking cotton and making master rich. No more whippings for us to ever get. We stopped working right then and started to celebrate, even though this information had come 2 years late. We are all free from this here slavery. Now we can be what we want to be. Some of us left and some of us stayed. But those who worked the fields had to get paid. Can't tell you the date when we got this news. All I can say, no more slavery blues. So now we celebrate every year at this time. We know it was in June, so Juneteenth is just fine.
All right, switching back over here, and just a big shout out to Fabian Brown, who had to duck out the door. Speaking of other gigs, we got a multitask here. I'm going to switch my microphone over, and now hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm here in the room with Ben Rubin, Eamon Drum, Anu's son, and the great Masta Ace, whose Analog Players Society single came out today, and you can find that, or you can check downloads.ropeadope.com and find Analog Players Society at the top, or I believe it's analogplayersociety.bandcamp.com. This is the day. 10% that Bandcamp usually takes goes straight to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and that is a much needed resource. So welcome back, everyone. I am now both host and technician. So can everyone hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right. Great. You know, I just want to express my gratitude, not just for making beautiful music, but for making beautiful music with a very poignant message that that people need to hear, and for trusting us to bring it out, but also for spending time with us to talk this through. These things are generally uncomfortable for me in that I'm been in COVID doing both learning the tech for the first time and also sort of pushing myself into areas that are difficult and challenging. So I appreciate your patience and for spending time here. I just want to turn the mic over to Ace and to Ben and Eamon, if you like. Is there anything else that you want to say about this music as people move forward?
Well, I just hope that the song continues to travel to as many ears as it can. I hope it becomes not just a national song, but an international song. I travel around the world, Europe, Australia, fairly frequently, and so my hope is that the next time I'm able to tour abroad again, that there'll be an awareness about the song with those fans that come to the shows, even to the point that somebody requests it while I'm on the stage. I usually take requests towards the end, any extra songs people want to hear. And it will be a great moment to have one of those fans just want to hear Home in America. It would surprise me, because it's one of those records that if I don't perform it, I might not know the words, but I'll make sure that I'm ready to go that night when the time comes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Ben?
I just want to say thank you to Ropeadope and to Ace and to Ben, really, for letting us be the vehicle for this message. I mean, the flow was effortless and the storytelling was really, really clear. And, you know, and I feel Ben feels this way. We're just lucky to be able to make music with all these amazing cats. We just hope that we can keep on doing it again. And the fact that this track is, you know, it's real and it's necessary in the world right now. You know, it's an added bonus, and there needs to be a correction, course correction, especially in this country, but in the world. And it's a privilege to be part of that whole thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Ben?
I don't have much to add to that, you know, except to also express gratitude to everybody involved in this, all the musicians. First of all, Eamon for providing the space and allowing us to open the musical floodgates and just get this music on tape in the shortest amount of time conceivable. I mean, I can't even believe how much music we got recorded in like 3 hours at that original session. So, I mean, there still could be more tracks coming. I'm still kind of hoping this is going to turn into an EP or something like that. You know, I feel really gratified that Eamon and I were able to take this vision from idea all the way to where we are now, which is, you know, really what I was hoping to do. And, you know, I can only express endless gratitude to Masta Ace for just writing this song, and then we just used his demo vocal. He didn't even re-record it. I mean, I know Ace said he did a little bit of editing on the demo, but I mean, still, you know,
I
we
wouldn't
just
have known.
you know, this is just one of those projects where everything just came together and happened, you know, really in a more or less effortless fashion. So thank you to Donnie McCaslin for playing an incredible saxophone solo, and thank you to Desron Douglas and Orrin Evans and Eric McPherson for laying a bed of groove that is just like as deep as it can possibly get. And thank you to anyone who listens to this song and thinks about it, because that's really the point, is that we made a song that we want you to hear and to listen and think about. And, you know, hopefully we can move people in the right direction, you know, towards accepting everybody for who they are.
Beautiful.
I would just add this one thing, you know, anybody who's listening out there, you know, this track and the album Tilted and soundtrack for a non-existent film. But I know I did personally, I don't know about Ben, but during quarantine and COVID, I had to find a way to get out of the house and exercise. It was desperate. And so I was listening to all these mixes and edits and everything. And I just hope that somebody out there will like walk or ride or drive and listen to everything.
Yeah, yep.
Whatever. It's just traveling music. So
actually, I'm actually not even done with my gratitude. I have couple more things to be thankful for. One is Fiona Bloom and Mona, who are just working behind the scenes tirelessly to actually get this message to people. And, you know, thank you guys. You're totally rocking it. And I also kind of think we need to thank COVID, because I'm not sure this would have happened otherwise. You know, first of all, Ace would just be working on his record and he wouldn't need this outlet to get these thoughts down. And, you know, the bridge is so busy, he didn't have no time to work on it. So it's great that, you know, the world stopped and then we could actually spend the time on this music that it deserved. So
I'm not going to say I'm not thanking COVID for anything, but I'm not going to do it publicly.
Okay, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Fuck COVID.
Yeah. I'll do that in the privacy of my own sanctuary. So, thanks. Yeah. And thank you all. I want to turn our attention to Mr. Anu's son, who brought a beautiful record to us a few years ago, Sanguine Regum, which talked about, you know, fortunately and unfortunately, all of the same issues, right? And we have a piece that we're going to play from Anu with him performing the title track from that. It's a very powerful piece that, excuse me, that we're going to go out with. Anu, in the context of today, how do you feel about the album at this point? I mean, still poignant, right?
It's like more poignant than it was when I released it, and
Right.
it was poignant before that, and it's painful that it's still relevant. You know what I mean? That we haven't got past this yet, and I'm not sure we'll ever get past it. You know, but it just shows that it's, you know, it's an issue that has to be addressed, and it's good to see that it is finally getting the attention, a degree of the attention that it deserves, and you know, I'm glad to see there's a new wave of revolutionaries now. You know, these millennials are out here in these streets, and they're not taking the stuff that we took or our parents took. You know, they're really, you know, they'll burn it down. You know what I mean? So it's forcing the hand to really pay attention to what's going on. You know, so I appreciate that. And I also, like I said, it's a testament. If you make honest music that's really reflective of the time, it's going to be timeless, you know? So that's why it's going to stand the test of time, because it's speaking to a period. Even if we get past this period, it'd still be a body of work that's reflective of a time.
Beautiful. I feel like we're, as you say that, I feel like we're kind of like, we're in the early stages of the battle. And you kind of come down off the hill to get into battle, and you can't see the end point anymore. You know, you knew where you were headed, and you guys have been fighting the fight for a long time. But I think it's now a national and an international, and it's a global fight. Don't get me wrong. I'm very concerned about my neighbors. You know. People.
I mean, we have new soldiers and new allies, so it's like it's new steam, and you know the Ruri warrior is encouraged by the new blood that has shown up to stand with us. You know, so we appreciate the allies who have shown up, as well as the new generation of our kids who are coming up to take on the fight. So I'm encouraged.
Good. I am sometimes encouraged and sometimes defeated, but. You know, I'm old, I guess, but I too have yet to find out where my home is. Certainly not trying to attach myself to the same sort of experience, but just say that to say that I can at least feel a little bit of it. So thank you all. We're gonna go out with this wonderful video from Anu. I want to remind everyone, just a couple of housekeeping things here. Downloads.ropeadope.com is the best place to go and find the music on the label, and analogplayerssociety.com or .bandcamp.com is where you can find this new track, Home, and also the albums or the tracks that they mentioned, Tilted, etc. Also anusun.bandcamp.com, and of course it's on all the streaming platforms, but that's for when you're, you know, out in the car or out somewhere else. You know, buy it, support. Our Bandcamp sales have increased dramatically over the last year, while streaming continues to disappoint. So I want to encourage people to go do that. It really makes a difference. Also, there's only one place to get, really only one place to get the highest quality audio file that you can get if you're just going to do it digitally, and that is at Bandcamp. You can get a WAV or a FLAC file and hold on to that. I've noticed on Spotify recently that people are remixing things and reworking, and I wish I had all the every original vinyl record that I had bought and every original CD that I had bought, because where the world is going is towards lower quality. So do support in that way. And there are CDs and hopefully vinyl. If the vinyl plants can catch up, we'll all talk about that. But please do support. We feel it. We see it. We get checks to artists. And we greatly appreciate everybody who understands that and supports. This is actually a way not just to enjoy music, but also to support ambassadors who are doing the hard work, which you saw you saw today. These are the leaders of the world. So support in that way. I'm going to take it out with this track, and I want to just say again a thank you to everyone here in the room.
Thank you, Lewis. Thank you for giving us all this platform today. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to buy a new record right after this. I listened to it yesterday. Yeah. It's fucking great.
Yeah, man.
Beautiful.
Appreciate it.
All right, hold on a sec.
I'm already on you guys' tracks too, and I'm a big fan.
So what are you gonna do? You gonna fuck around out there in the streets till you get killed? Whatever changes you have to make, just do it. You gotta think about your life. Being a black man in America isn't easy. The hunt is on. And you're the prey. All I'm saying survive.
Come on, y'all, clap your hands. Come with me, come on.
A flag is drinks with our blood. Because you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We have to live on it. So we know that this flag is drinks with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black backs of black people, and if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they say.
Yo, I'm a biological hybrid, sun-kissed skin, I'm a bit strange in you. You sold my folk into slavery, so bump him and bump you too. More in my genes, my DNA respect. Stirring up the soup, we served y'all at breakfast. Columbus just a host that I was so reckless. Grab him by the throat and slice off this nexus. Made a seat at the table for the flybird, that white shit don't right with dope cable. Messed up our life, we're unstable, unlicensed from my chick, but my clique still able. Shovel our hands up and we down on our knees. Built all your cities, our blood on the leaves. Soil still fertile, strange fruit still on trees. Prisons sure look like new slavery to me, but it's okay, it's okay, it's okay with rise. Hey, it's okay with rise. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay with rise. It's okay, it's okay. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay with rise. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay with rise. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay with rise. Yo, hold on.
Living in the land of liberty, country of confusion, state of insanity, a city of. Living in the land of liberty, country of confusion, state of insanity, a city of. Living in the land of liberty, country of confusion, state of insanity, a city of brotherly love. Merely the buildings in Philly kill me, historically conceal me, displace me, brick by brick like big city dreams in the projects. Waiting on progress, but they tack it on the Ritz. And the only one I tips is the music man, cause he performs magic, pulling melodies out of his hat. You see these token holding final destinations, saying y'all made it to suburban train stations, while we're left here giving concrete accommodations, losing our green spaces. And I seek shade in a